Hello, everybody, and welcome to the London Mountain Podcast. My name's Greg Hackett, and in this series of interviews, I'm going to be talking to filmmakers who enter their films for our festival, and I'm also going to be talking to community hosts, who are the wonderful people who share those films in their communities. If you think you could be either a filmmaker or a community host, then this is the podcast for you. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the London Mountain Podcast. Today with me, I've got me. I'm interviewing me. It's all about me this week because my colleague Adam pointed out that we should really be talking to people a little bit about how they might curate and what they might do. So I've got Adam with me here. How are you doing, Adam?
Really good. And I'm going to take over presenting duties now, right? Because I'm going to interview you. And you've teed it up nicely because when we were talking, it was about kind of showcasing how you go about curating the films, what you look for, how you put them together. Because we've had a number of very successful editions, and the feedback has always been the curation is really good. I'm going to embarrass you now because you're doing a good job, right? But what would be useful, I think, is for you to share what goes through the curation process. How do you approach it?
I can be really honest, actually, and say that I don't necessarily get through them all.
But what if it's right? Do you end up watching it all the way through?
Yeah, I do. If I start watching a film and I'm enjoying it, then I watch it. I watch it right through to the end, make a note about it, and then I come back to it at selection time. So they come out. You've got to remember these films come in throughout the whole year, which is a good thing because it means that I don't have to sit down and watch 500 films in 2 days or something. You know, I'm watching them throughout the year, earmarking them, putting them aside for selection.
What 500 films or so come in? It's that sort of volume, and then you cut it down to about 130, right?
Yeah, and 130, you know, some people would say that's not a curation because it's still quite a lot of film. You know, people think of a curation as being a small number of things from a vast number of things. So it's still a big number. But the reason it's still a curation for us is just simply because, you know, the London Mountain Film Festival is a community, but it's a broad church, you know, and then we're not just talking about activities, we're talking about places, and we're talking about themes that matter to how we interact with the natural world. So it's a broad church.
So what do you look for in a film?
You know, for people who watched or listened to some of these interviews I've been doing with filmmakers, they all talk about it in terms of storytelling. They're not making films, they're telling stories. And the best people to tell stories are people. So the characters, the individuals within the films are really key. And the reason that they're key, I think, is that they form a bridge between the viewer and whatever's going on. So if it's a film about running and you've got a runner and then you've got somebody who's watching the film, the runner is the person that connects the person watching the film with the sport of running. They're the bridge. And the better the bridge, the better the film. And the more likely that somebody is going to enjoy a film about running, even if they're not a runner, you know, because they can relate to that character and they can put themselves in that place and in that activity. So you've got to have good people in it. Production values are in there. Of course they are. We don't like to rule films out just because it's obvious that they haven't been a big budget production, because this isn't necessarily a big budget world. You know, a lot of these people doing this stuff are doing it for fun. They're doing it with friends. They're doing it because they want to inspire and they want to share stories. They want to tell their stories. So they don't necessarily have loads of cash to throw at it.
And that's where the short films are so powerful as well. So talk about those a little bit, because there needs to be a balance between long feature length, short films. Is that even a factor, or?
Yeah, no, I it's more how they pan out. I mean, I don't, the duration of a film to me is not a critical factor. What's critical is if the duration is appropriate to the content.
How would you approach it? How would you unpick your curation to get to a film night?
There's two things to think about, I think, first of all. The first is your audience and the second is what you like, you know, and I think that You've decided, if you decided to run a film night, you've put yourself in a position of sharing these stories. So, you know, the filmmakers tell the stories, but these community hosts can actually then share them. And that's a privilege, actually, to do that. And I think that One of the things that people get out of it is that the films that they chose, people come up to them after and say, that was fantastic. Thanks for choosing those films. I really related to it. And if those are films that you also like, then, it's a real buzz. So I would suggest to any community host that they should pick films that they like. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take that opportunity to put on the night of the films that you like the best? And then people are coming up to you, talking to you about how the films that you like the best are also the ones that they like. So, but there is a consideration about audience, particularly if you are in a particular sporting club or outfit. You're going to want to pick things that are suitable for that. So that's easy. I mean, that is easy. If you're a climbing wall, we make that easy for people. We show them a curation of all the climbing films, and we put together an 1.5 hour reel, and you can just go and pick that, and you don't have to do it. You don't even have to think about it.
You want to create surprise as well, so is that where the art of maybe choosing an outlier comes in? And if that film is 10 minutes, you've got 10 minutes of an outlier, but do you think that actually putting that into your selection formula, let's have one outlier that breaks a little bit? Because look, I'm going to be very clear, right? You got one short running film, another short running film, another short running film, another short. You're running out at some point or the other. Throw in a swim film or something like that. Is that an idea, or am I talking nonsense?
No, you're not talking nonsense. I think that's a good idea. And I think, Katrin, on an earlier podcast, I'd watched the Chester Frosty's podcast. She does this, they're mostly wild swimming, but then she'll chuck them a curveball. Of course, you should put in random stuff. Why not? Keep it interesting. Give people a bit of the unexpected.
I don't think we have had and we've had a lot of communities. I don't think we've had a single one who said, the film night didn't work. There has to be some level of trust in the master curation that you've done.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, have we had any film nights? Have there been any community events that haven't worked? I'm yet to receive a complaint from anyone about the quality of the films or the feedback on the films, and that aspect of the experience. The choosing of the films, the curation of the films. I mean, I know this is what this interview is about. But that is the thing that people should be worrying about the least, really. We've lined up over 100 brilliant films. And if anyone can't get a good night's entertainment out of that, if they're interested in adventure in the outdoors, I don't know what the problem is.
I think that's where I was getting at. Trust the master curation as well. If you're coming at it new, try not to overthink it, like you said. Trust the master curation. And I suppose the other thing you're saying, because it's a film night, try and inject some pace into it. But then you've had film hosts who've broken the nights up, haven't they? Where they've said, okay, on this night, we're going to do a few shorts. And on the second night, we're going to just have 2 films, right? Because that's an option. People don't realize that. You're limited to 3 hours of film, but you can split them across 2 nights.
So that's a really good point. If you think you can reach a lot of people with different interests, then, why just do the one night? Why not actually break that up? If you can do that without compromising quality and, thinning out the room, then I would do it. So yeah, if you can do that and you've got the time to do that, then crack on, fill your boots, because all the films are there.
If you had one piece of advice to someone who is looking at the community path and there is some perhaps trepidation on the experience, and the other podcasts in this series are sharing that it is easy, what would you say to them in terms of plunging in? What's the value outcome for people in running these community events?
I think the most important thing about plunging in is to plunge early. To go back to wild swimming, there's no point standing around the beach in your Speedos for very long, is there? You want to just get in there and get going, because time is on your side then, And I think there have been occasions where people's events haven't gone as well as they might have done it because they've started doing it 2 weeks out and just haven't got their ducks in a row, had time to do the marketing, had time to get the venue they want, all that logistical stuff. I just want to go back on this same point. Trust the curation. I don't even trust the curation. I have to trust the world of filmmaking to deliver hundreds of brilliant films, every year that I can that I can make a selection from. At the beginning of the year, I don't have anything, so I'm starting out with nothing. And then by the time the film festival comes around, I've got over 100 films. So I trust the adventure filmmaking world to deliver films every year. So our community hosts can trust us deliver a long list of films from that they can then deliver a shortlist from. So get started early, get your ducks in a row. We've tried to make things easy, or we've tried to make them fun. But in life, don't do anything that isn't easy or fun. Those are the only two things, right? So we've made easy all the time-consuming stuff, the hard stuff, the finding the films, the how you watch them, the how you download them, the how you screen them. We've made all that practical stuff really, really easy. And the curation can be fun. That can be time-consuming, but you can make it fun. You're watching great films, you're putting together stuff, you can bring your friends over, you can have a laugh, So keep it easy or fun. If you start early, it'll be easy. Plunge in early, don't stand on the beach.
And that is the other unique thing about the community pass. You get access way earlier than, let's say, the household pass, which starts over the course of the 2 weeks of the festival. So you do have that time, and I think that's an important thing to understand with the community pass, that it does give you that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can start watching films from January the 1st. So you got the 7 or 8 weeks before your community event starts. But I wouldn't wait until the curation is on to do the rest of the stuff, because really you want to have everything lined up by then, don't you? You want to have your venue, you want to have your, you're going to know where your tech's coming from, you're going to have your dates, and you're going to even be selling tickets. You don't have to wait until you got curation to start to set all that boring practical stuff up. So come January, all you have to do is watch the films, and then run the event, which of course is great fun as well.
Can you sum up, or is that an impossible question, the sort of human impact that these film nights has for clubs, communities? Because they are kind of different. I think there's only so many times you can hit up people with a raffle and a tombola, right? This is a different experience.
They tell me that it's a very unifying experience, coming together, watching films together, giving you something that you can share, relate to, discuss, apply. A lot of these things are inspiring groups to go and do things. But it's that bringing together around themes that are shared passions. It's a form of magic. And the fact that the films are, it's known that the films are all fresh, everyone's seeing new stuff, and that they're sharing that with other people, running community events elsewhere as well. They're part of something, they are part of something bigger, as our strapline says. But for them within that room, it's they're coming together and sharing. And then the other part of the answer is the actual community hosts themselves, I think, has another level of that, because they facilitated that. And I think they're really proud of it. And it makes them feel really good, to have shared the films and put that work in. And they really get something out of it. And then, of course, there's, money raised and all of that stuff, which kind of goes without saying. But I think the real output is the shared joy.
Magic, you can just feel it. I mean, you and I have been to a number of these community events. It's just so hard to describe. You walk in and it's already there. It's just in the ether.
What I find interesting when I've gone to those community events to watch these films on the big screen, because often that's the first time that I've seen them on a big screen as well. I might have watched them 3 or 4 times, and then I find myself at a community event and it comes on the screen and I watch it again, and it's a completely different experience, because you can feel it being absorbed by that audience.
And I think on that note, I am going to call an end to this podcast. I've done my best to interview you. I've asked you 3 questions at once, and you've done an amazing job of unpicking them. So well done, Greg. Thank you for joining this podcast for the London Mountain Film Festival.
That's all right. Just before you go, I want my studio back. I'm just going to get my studio back.
All right. Okay. Well, you have the studio back. I'm not doing this. I mean, listen, this is a one-off, right? You can keep hosting them. I'm not taking the job.
Okay.
Failed the interview.
All right. Yeah. Next. Hey, everybody, and thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, if you want to be a community host, it is really, really easy to bring adventure to your hometown, village, wherever it is you hang out, and raise money for your club, your charity, your adventurous cause. All the details are on our website. Check it out, and we'll see you in February. Thank you. Bye.